Welcome to Nolan Knows. Time for the lightning round. Tommy Hilfiger wants to sell you solar-powered clothing. Apparently, they've got a device, actually a kind of a material that they can put on the jacket. You put your cell phone in the pocket and it'll charge while you're walking. Maybe the first time I've ever been in favor of solar power. It's a great idea as long as the government doesn't subsidize it. Next on the list, apparently soda makers want to cut calories. They want to reduce the amount of fat you put on drinking their soft drinks. There's some skeptics involved in this, but you know, the free market is such a wonderful instrument. People are clamoring for weight loss tricks and ways to not consume as many calories, and the major soft drink companies are complying. They're jumping all over themselves, trying to meet the demands of the consumer. It's what the free market does, and it does it damned well. Next on the list, the Clinton camp says that any long-shot Democratic challenger would still be a real threat to Hillary getting the nomination. The biggest threat to Hillary getting the nomination is Hillary. She's a lousy candidate. She already tried this before and lost. She couldn't even promote her book successfully. No, I think the Republicans are a little overly concerned about Hillary. My guess is she won't be the nominee, and if she wins the nomination, she won't be the next president. House of Representatives passed a bill to extend tax breaks through December. Well, there's a give and take here. On one hand, you want businesses to know that there's a stable tax environment, they know what their bills are going to be, and certainly I'm in favor of tax breaks for businesses. The real solution here, somewhere down the road, and it better happen quickly, is to simplify the tax system. If giving tax breaks to certain groups in the economic world is a benefit to them, giving tax breaks to all businesses would be an economic boon to all of them. Get rid of the current income tax, quit taxing corporations, and that'll make a strong economy. That's what the Republicans ought to shoot for. The Supreme Court looking at a case on Facebook where a husband wrote some really ugly things on his Facebook account, literally talking about killing his wife and killing an FBI agent. Is it freedom of press? Does he have freedom of the speech? The Supreme Court will decide. But based on this guy's history from what I read, and based on what he wrote, I would think it's a pretty fine line, and I think he's going down on this. I think he was making threats on Facebook, and I think they were pretty ugly, and I think the Supreme Court will probably rule that he can be prosecuted for it. All right, it is time for the story of the week. Well, some would say the story of the week is Daniel Pantaleo not getting indicted for Eric Garner's death. Some might also say it's Ferguson, Missouri. You know, I was looking at a story of the Huffington Post, and they had a list of people who were killed by the police, and there was something they all had in common, including these two cases. They all resisted arrest. So now, while de Blasio, the mayor of New York, is lecturing people about the evil law enforcement out there, and we're seeing people bloviate about how bad the police are, I've got some tips that will save your life in the event you encounter those nasty, evil police officers. Try this. When you get stopped by the police, if they tell you to freeze, you freeze. If they tell you put your hands behind your back, put your hands behind your back. If they tell you to spread your legs, you're going to get handcuffed. They tell you to kneel down, sit down, stand up, jump high, whatever they say, do what they say. Now, you may be angry and you may think they're wrong, but you'll have a chance to prove that. That's why we have court. The next thing I might suggest is that you not reach for the police officer's gun. It's never really a good idea. You'll usually lose that encounter. It's also not a good idea to punch the police officer, and this isn't really the time to start calling him names. What you want to do calmly is what he says or she says, and you want to not draw blood or ire or anger. Just be mellow. You may get the urge to talk. You'll want to maybe scream and shout about how awful the police are, how wrong this law is, or how innocent you are, or how you just came from grandma's house. Don't do that. Keep your mouth shut. Tell them who you are when they ask, and if they want much more information than that, tell them you want to talk to your attorney. If you feel obligated to bloviate, if you can't stop yourself from talking, recite the Pledge of Allegiance or the Declaration of Independence. Hell, sing the national anthem. But whatever you do, don't call them names. Now, the last tip Might be one of the more difficult ones. Try not to break the law. And I didn't say that facetiously. There are so many laws, it's hard to know when you are breaking them. But try not to. But I guarantee you, if you do those things that I just listed, you're going to walk away alive. That is the story of the week. This segment of the program is the If They Were Here segment. My If They Were Here this week is Rand Paul, Senator from Kentucky. I followed his father for a long time. In fact, I followed him into the Libertarian Party. I like Rand Paul, too. He's not really libertarian per se, he's more Republican with libertarian leanings. It's what we call a small L libertarian. Of all the Republican candidates that are out there, he's probably, I would argue, the best president that they could elect. But I don't want him to run. Let me explain my logic here. As a libertarian, as a constitutionalist, as somebody who believes the document the Founding Fathers gave us was the operating manual for the country and should not be ignored, I would like nothing more than a constitutionalist in the White House. But Rand Paul's not there yet. He's close, but he's really a Republican. But the world perceives him as a libertarian because of his father, Congressman Ron Paul. So they'll say, this is what a libertarian looks like. They may say he's a libertarian in Republicans' clothes, but they're still going to say this is what a libertarian looks like. And when he then rules like a Republican instead of a libertarian, well, that'll give libertarians, frankly, a bad name. Because he won't be a libertarian, he won't do the kinds of things that a libertarian would do. So in short, while I think he would make a pretty good president as compared to any of the other candidates that might be in the field, while I think that he is sort of libertarian, he is not libertarian. And if he runs and wins as a Republican, whom everybody believes is a libertarian, he gives libertarianism a bad name. So Senator Paul, if you were here, I would ask you not to run. I would ask you to stay in the United States Senate. I think you can have great influence there. I think you can have great influence with the voters. And I think you're probably not going to win the White House anyway. But I would suggest you stay in the Senate where I think you have the most influence. That's my If They Were Here. It's time for Mist in the Media, and the Mist in the Media this week deals with the labor force participation rate. The unemployment numbers came out, and frankly, they do look a little bit better than they have in the past. But what's troubling is the labor force participation rate. It is at an incredible all-time low. I think it goes back to 1976, if I'm not mistaken, or thereabouts anyway. That's the number of people who just aren't working. Now, there's a better way to determine this, and let me explain what the problem is. Labor force participation rate not only includes people who want to work and have given up, but it also includes people that are like baby boomers who have retired and just aren't looking for work because they've done it. They've paid their due. But there is another number the federal government runs. It's called the U6. And if you look that up, you'll find that the unemployment numbers are really closer to 11%. The number that you see normally reported at 5.5%, that doesn't include people who gave up, people who said, look, I can't find anything, there's nothing out there for me, I just quit, I'm moving back home with mom and dad. That number isn't included in that 5.5%, but the U6 number, that includes them. They can't find a job. They've been looking hard and long and they can't find anything. They've given up and they've moved back home. Now, there is a reason why those people can't find jobs. It's because the economy is still bumping along the bottom. I've been talking about this now for months on Nolan Knows, and we're still not really catching fire. We're not catching fire because we've added all kinds of disincentives for the economy. We've begun to regulate more. We were already overregulated before, and the cost of the economy for the regulations, for businesses to comply, is estimated to be in the tens of billions of dollars every year. We have another problem. We've just crossed a milestone. We are now officially more than $18 trillion in debt. When you compile all of those regulations, when you throw in all of that national debt, when you throw in the higher tax rates, well, you see what's keeping the economy bumping along the bottom. And if that's not enough, you throw in Obamacare, which encourages part-time work, discourages full-time work. Well, you've got the perfect recipe for a sluggish economy. You might even say it could create the slowest recovery since the Great Depression. There is a way out of this. We've got to get out from under the income tax. We've got to cut spending. And by the way, when I say cut spending, I'm not talking about reducing the deficit. Pay attention to this because this is important. People don't recognize this. If you reduce the deficit, you increase the debt. You're just increasing it less. If we want to get this under control, we have to eliminate the deficit, start cutting the debt, start deregulating and turning this marketplace loose. Then we'll see a workplace participation rate increase. We'll see the U6 numbers decrease, and we'll all be a lot better off.